Hello Book Club, hosted by Heather Skinner. Happy Monday. Today is our Excerpt Reading Monday from our featured author, Halie Fewkes, who wrote Secrets of the Tally. Let me try and get that glare off of there. There we go, so you can see it really well. So Halie has given me permission for the excerpt reading to read the prologue and a little bit into chapter 1. Thank you so much, Halie, for giving me permission to read this excerpt for my book club. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe while you're here. Secrets of the Tally, Book 1 by Halie Fewkes. And I also want to show you, she has a gorgeous map in here. I don't know about you guys, but I love to read everything along the way to the prologue, the first chapter, as we're starting a book. And Halie Fewkes does have a dedication in here. It reads, "This book is dedicated to Amy Fewkes, who has taught me the meaning of bravery and strength without ever really meaning to, and to the countless teachers who inspire creative dreams in their students. Without you, this story would have never been started, finished, or sent to print. Thank you for all you do." I really love that dedication. I think dedications are so important because it means so much to the author, and that's such a sweet dedication. I'm hoping to get to ask Halie about it in our end of the month interview. So after you hear this reading or anytime throughout the month on our way, please remember to leave comments with any questions that you have for Halie Fewkes when we get to speak with her at the end of this month after we've gotten to read book 1 for her feature. Prologue. Sometimes when the sky was cloudless and the birds sang loudly enough, Margaret forgot that strolling wasn't allowed. A light breeze and a warm day were almost enough to make the forest seem harmless, and so she followed behind the 2 kids in her care without any sense of urgency. In fact, she found herself smiling when she realized they were holding hands. 11 seemed a little young to her, but the kids had been best friends for years. She'd known this was coming. All was peaceful until a shrieking scream echoed from ahead and froze all 3 of them to the trail. Margaret quickly hissed, "Back to town now." This was her worst nightmare, made even worse as her son took off toward the danger. His best friend, Ebby, darted after him, and Margaret was the only one left rooted to the ground in shock. This couldn't be happening. If there was an Escali ahead, it would rip them apart. "Ratuin, no, come back," she cried, forcing her limbs to pursue, suddenly sprinting as only a panicked mother could. A blonde teenaged girl sobbed and coughed in a patch of wildflowers ahead, wreathing on the ground as she struggled to say something. The kids reached her first, and Ebby was on her knees in an instant, trying to figure out what was wrong when there was no blood. Margaret skidded to a stop behind them, hauling each of the kids back to their feet. "Out of here now." "But I think she's a mage," Ebby protested. "We have to help her." Margaret used all the strength in her arms to yank both kids back in the direction of safety. "Run, now, and we'll send her help from town." Margaret's forceful push suddenly became a restraint to pull them back to her as an Escali dropped down from a tree limb. A human-like monster with wickedly black hair on his head and spikes of bone jutting from his elbows, now crouched with his sharp teeth bared. The kids pressed themselves against Margaret from either side. It would only take the Escali seconds to kill all 3 of them. Chapter 1. Somebody had ripped my mind open and poured black ink inside. It was an all-consuming darkness, and when I woke, I brought nothing with me except a sense of confused terror. My legs were already working frantically beneath me, crashing through forest undergrowth for reasons unknown. I lurched involuntarily to one side and grabbed an ancient tree to steady myself, clinging to the damp moss with all the strength in my fingers as my knees threatened to collapse. My eyes stung and my head ached, so I smashed my face into the soft green life and with the cool scent of rotting wood filling my nose and calming me down, I tried to think. Something was wrong. Everything was wrong. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if I was alone. Two birds began to chatter to each other overhead, and I snapped my eyes open as blood's earthy scent hit me, a smell like steel and broken stones. My blurry vision sharpened as I pushed myself back from the thunderstruck tree and realized my hands had left crimson stains on the moss. Panicked, I whipped around to see an aging forest I had never laid eyes on before. A tangle of clovers and wild strawberry vines snagged my ankles as I spun, and I wrung my hands fiercely together in the nearest leafy bush to scrub the blood off. Each breath became a shorter gasp as reality hit me, and my weary lungs tried to match the accelerating pace of my heart. I didn't know where I was from. I didn't even know my own name. I think that's a good place to stop in chapter 1. All of the questions that come after reading this and the excitement and the action. I can't wait to hear your comments of thoughts of this beginning part, and also questions that you have you'd like me to ask Halie. Something really cool too, I know I normally find myself saying, I'm sorry if I mispronounced a name of a character or a person because I'm reading it. And there's actually, I believe it's at the end of book 2 in Halie's Secrets of the Tally series, Catching Epics. She has this really cool thing with her pronunciation guide, and I'd love to read it to you. However you pronounce these names in your head is perfectly acceptable. But for the sake of resolving those inevitable arguments, here's how I imagine a few of the harder ones. I really love that because that is something, whether there's a pronunciation guide or not in a book, I find that so unique how she wrote that and thinks about that. Because in our heads, we picture things however it resonates with us, even with descriptions. So I think that's really cool. Hopefully, Halie, thumbs up. I pronounced things in a way that you enjoyed and that maybe was close. But I also really love that idea of, however it resonates with you is great. And I've been reading very quickly. I myself am on almost done book 3. Which is A Deal for 3. And it is funny, like once you start pronouncing something in your head one way when you're reading, it kind of sticks. So thank you so much for listening to this reading, this excerpt reading from Secrets of the Tally Book 1. I hope that you're enjoying reading along with us this month. And if you haven't started reading it and you're interested in finding out more of what happens in this book, I'm going to include all of Halie's links in the description below. Thank you again so much for watching, and happy reading.